All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. All right, here's my buddy BK Morrison. This came out a few years ago. The band is called Tug of War, and the album is entitled Soulfire. This guy can sing like nobody's business. It's kind of a cross between David Clayton Thomas and Bob Carlyle. I mean, spectacular stuff. Sounds a bit like the Doobie Brothers and Foreigner and Toto and some other stuff. It's really good. And it's got soul, baby. So check this out. This came out a number of years ago. Soulfire from BK Morrison and Tug of War. Just fantastic. All right. Now, Rudy Sarzo, he's out there. He's talking. He plays bass, I believe. I think he's in Quiet Riot right now. He's defending Dee Snider, who liked a tweet by Paul Stanley. And now he's getting grief for defending Dee Snider. Now, as I've said on this channel, Dee Snider, during COVID, might as well just say it now, or you want to call it the thingdemic, like I called it for quite some time, basically to avoid censorship. Dee Snider was a disaster during COVID. He said some of the worst, some of the meanest and despicable things that I think anybody could say during that time. However, here he is, coming along and just liking a tweet by Paul Stanley. And by the way, Paul Stanley has already walked this tweet back and said, gee, my words didn't come out right. I've got to use my words better. Sorry. I apologize. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in that situation. Yada, yada, yada. All right. So, Rudy Sarzo, again, a member of Quiet Riot currently, and was a long time ago as well, says here, I've known Dee Snider for decades, and I vouch for him that there's not a single homophobic molecule in his body. This is uncalled for character assassination. I stand with Dee Snider. Okay, so Dee Snider, in his own tweet, says that he supports the trans community. And then, of course, someone comes along and says, couldn't care less what a straight cis person thinks about this subject. All right. So, bottom line, you're not in our group, so we don't care. And doesn't it feel kind of ominous? Like there are people out there that look at you and say, well, you have no right to make comments on this. So parents, you really don't have any right to worry about what the state wants to do to your kids, because it's the state who's coming in certain areas and saying, you know what, your son or daughter has expressed a desire to possibly switch teams. And we think that we want to come in and facilitate that. And we'll do it through so-called medicine and so-called surgeries. Yeah. And again, Paul Stanley came along to say, maybe not a good idea. And Dee Snider said, yeah, I kind of agree that with kids especially. Now, there should be some clarification from Dee Snider, but there's probably not going to be because he's already stepped in it. But he could say, like I've said, hey, if you're an adult and this is what you want to do, and your brain is firing on all cylinders, and maybe you take some sort of an evaluation before you embark on life-altering surgery, or maybe, they give you a certain medical treatment. By the way, this is a big boon to pharmaceutical companies. Do you ever think that this might be really good for big pharma long term, that somebody's going to have to be on these medications probably for the rest of their lives, right? And as far as the surgery goes, I've heard that it's a huge moneymaker for hospitals. Years ago, people on the left smartly would put together things like this and say, kind of sounds like these big corporations are trying to bilk people out of, their life savings. This is why you need universal health care, right? So you can pay for all of these new surgeries and chemicals and things that they're going to do. But regardless, even if there was free health care in the United States, all of that money would go from your pocket into the pockets of those who work in these big corporations, the medical industrial complex. Now, I know I'm way off here, but folks, if you've noticed, like the classic rock world, not much going on right now. In fact, bands announcing their final tour, no new albums really coming out. When's the last time REO Speedwagon put out an album? Like 2007 or something? I mean, folks, it's kind of over. Most of it's going away. So yeah, Rudy Sarzo, who is an old school musician, and I figured I'd comment on his defense of Dee Snider. And people saying, couldn't care less what you think about. This is their response. Couldn't care less. You're not one of us. So I couldn't care less. And quite honestly, you probably don't have the right to even speak on this subject because you know nothing about it. Because then other commenters are saying, you should learn more about what this is. Really? So I should learn more about how chopping body parts off of children. I should learn more how that's a compassionate thing. In my mind, maybe I need to, take some sort of medication. So I'll start to think differently about this topic. But when I think of kids being mutilated or certain things being chopped off, I think to myself, I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't know how you're going to persuade me that that is a good idea, that is the compassionate thing to do. How about we take a wait and see approach to see if Johnny grows out of this phase or Jenny grows out of whoever going in whatever direction, boy or girl. Let's see. Let's wait a little while. How come there isn't like outrage from certain areas from the medical community? Now, I know there is, but the media is just going to call you phobic. That's what this is. You've got a phobia, and it has nothing to do with phobia. This is nothing to do with phobia, because that's being afraid of a group of individuals or one person or whatever, or a spider, okay? Here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that doctors are doing things that are barbaric to children. That's what I'm afraid of. So call it, chopophobia, scalpelophobia. I don't know. What do you want? What do you want out of me? Because I have children of my own. Oh, you don't have a right to talk about this. Your kids are cis or whatever. I mean, this is this language too that they all want you to speak in. And Rudy Sarzo doesn't take the bait here. He's not saying cis. He's not using pronouns or anything. He's just like, okay, but I know Dee Snider. It's how you treat other people, I think, which is kind of what he's getting at. He was willing, by the way, earlier, this is a good point I forgot to make. So a couple of weeks ago, Dee Snider said, hey, I don't want my song being used by those Trump people. He didn't say that, but that's what he was implying. I want my song to be used for the groups that oppose him. So if anybody wants Twisted Sister to go out there and play shows, I'll be happy to assist. Now, this was supposed to be one of those events that Dee Snider wanted to do. And yet he wasn't based enough in their religion. He wasn't down on all of the doctrine, things that you can and cannot say, thoughts that you can and cannot have. Hey, Dee, that was an inside thought that you just had. And he didn't even have it. He used Paul Stanley to have the thought. Think of that. It's the beauty of Twitter. You can just retweet someone else's words. And you could say, oh, I didn't say that, but you agreed with it. Yeah, but, I can unagree with it. Sorry, oops. That's what Paul Stanley did. I'm surprised that Dee Snider hasn't caved in yet. He is insisting, though, all over the media, that he doesn't dislike this group of people. He's trying, but it's not working. You cannot be woke enough. This is what I've been told. There's no way. Once you become a little woke, you have to go all the way. And if woke changes, if woke goes even further out into the stratosphere, you have to go along. You have to learn the lingo. You have to repent of your prior sins. See, this is much like a religion. And what's weird is the doctrine is always exponentially accelerating or changing. The Overton window keeps moving. It's a moving target. And if you're not up on the latest trend, you're not going to sound like you belong. And most of us who are now considered like normies, or I don't even know all the lingo. All I know is that I grew up in the greatest time, really. And I'm looking now during this time, and I'm thinking to myself, how could this happen? By the way, there are a lot of other countries on the planet who are going to hold the line and are going to disagree with this. They're not going to go along with this. It's one of the reasons, by the way, that China and Russia and certain countries now, and I'm not a fan of China, I'm just going to be completely honest, I understand. China wants us to be like this. They want us to be like this because they can just walk right in here. And we're not capable of unifying and defending ourselves. Unless we turn this around very quickly and very radically, we're going to be a weak, confused place. And comments like these, just ordinary comments like, hey, I defend this guy, Rudy Sarzo. I defend this guy. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't really care what you have to say. Let's marginalize, let's make you feel like a pile of crap. And then, that's how you're going to feel about yourself. You're never going to make these people happy. This is the ultimate. This is the end game of all of this. You'll never make these people happy. And Dee Snider, dude, you're probably going to have to do a full apology. You're going to have to bow and say, I'm sorry. I mean, this is like bail, okay? There's a book again over my shoulder. It's The Dark Trinity. The Dark Trinity is here, people. And if you say that, if you think that, they don't know what you're talking about. They don't understand. These people are in their own religion. And I'm not sure, where do you go from mutilating children? Where do you go from there? Child sacrifice, right? Where do you go? Well, we're technically already doing that, right? So there's nowhere else to go. And other than just like all out anarchy, which we're really close to that, especially in certain cities around the United States. Folks, this is an existential threat to everything that we care about as human beings. Most human beings, not all. It feels like I'm in the minority. I feel isolated. Nobody's watching the videos. The channel is being throttled back. I can't do fun, happy content. I can't even do normal gossip content, whatever you want to call it. Nobody really cares about the drama in these old geezer bands anymore. And, I picked this as the thing I was going to do. And as much as I want to observe real music, yeah, let's talk about Quiet Riot, Rudy Sarzo. I think he's technically an original member, or he was there a little after the beginning or something, so he gives it more credibility. He's a great musician, by the way. That's what I can say about Rudy Sarzo. So, yeah, Rudy, I don't know, dude. You probably, and this is going to be what most musicians are going to do. They're just going to back away from this. They're not going to touch it. Why did Paul Stanley jump into this? You know, Paul Stanley was another one who was absolutely horrible during COVID. Again, you go from COVID to this. This is the new virus. All right. This is the new pathogen that you have to not only follow every day and get the numbers every day. Dr. Fauci with more numbers. I mean, wonder what Dr. Fauci thinks of all this. I know he's got a vaccine, can fix me. It's not going to fix someone else. It'll fix me though. So I'll think better, you know? Couldn't care less what you have to think. That's what this says out here. Couldn't care less. You're a cis, whatever that is. I'm a cis. Okay. Anyway, folks, I appreciate you watching the channel. Please subscribe to the channel if you can, folks. Also, Patreon for $1 a month if you can do that. YouTube memberships at $2.99. Was going to do one more time. Yep, here's Tug of War one more time. Soulfire. This is my buddy BK Morrison. Check it out. It's great music. And I will talk to you soon.